Could you let us know how this agreement will affect us directly, us Secwepemc people as a nation?
Well, I think one of the things is I'm just looking in this document on page 31, and it's got here what they call a cross-agency impact matrix. That might sound like something pretty Hollywood, you know, like the movie The Matrix, and all a matrix is just like a grid chart, eh? On this thing, this card chart here, they got two columns. One column identifying the provincial government item that they've identified that may impact on Aboriginal title. And then they got on the second list, they got how they categorize what impact it'll have. It'll either have a normal kind of impact, and there'll be some kind of normal consultation accommodation, or the decision will be on available on request, or deep consultation will be needed. But the list on the other side that identifies what they're talking about is here. It says fish and wildlife decisions in the matrix, and they talk about wildlife management plans. That means like all the deer and moose and elk. Species management plans, wildlife harvested policies and procedures, guidelines and best management practices, wildlife management plan amendments, allocation decisions of the animals in terms of calculation of animals, allowable mortality, you know, allocations of priorities among user groups, you know, high-level assessments, calculations of, you know, these are all these things got to do with hunting and fishing. I know our guys are sitting around the camp, like we do have a hunting camp. Sean and a number of the men get together during hunting season, and they have a camp to talk about basically these kinds of things. But what the province is saying is that through this agreement that they have jurisdiction over wildlife management plans, and we're basically going to, through consultation, approve the fact that the province has jurisdiction over them. But they say, oh yeah, this might have a normal impact on your Aboriginal and treaty rights. But the thing is that I know we've been fighting with the province since the day one. You know, I remember my dad and him and I having to hide in Pritchard from hunting conservation officers when I was just about 8 years old, you know. And so we've been fighting with them. And here they're admitting that we do have some wildlife management plan, Aboriginal title and rights interests. And what our leaders are doing are actually signing an agreement where they're saying that they're going to set up this office, you know, this agreement here is going to wind up setting up an office where they're going to have some native people, or probably non-native people, go through this matrix and consult with the government about these issues, like I was telling you, like wildlife management plan. But it involves also things like trapping, you know, angling in terms of fishing, and there's like a whole series of items underneath that list out a lot of things like inventory and research monitoring. You know, I know people were talking about finding animals that are having disease and stuff like that. You know, here we're talking about this, and we're talking about the province having the power to deal with it when actually we're the one that should have the power to deal with it. And what we're doing here is we're basically, by signing this with the province and agreeing that the province is handing this matrix to us, because it's really things that they're doing that they're trying to get us to consult on and accommodate their decision-making process. It's not the other way around. We're not asking them, they're asking us. And you need to get the shoe on the right foot that way. So I say it's very dangerous. But in addition to wildlife, they're talking about forest range and land-based investment matrix. You know, they're talking about forestry. all the different licensing processes in forestry. They're talking about like woodlot licenses. They're talking about range health and range grazing and lease decisions. You know, like I know, for instance, I know the elders were telling me that it was because of grazing rights that a lot of our medicines are being trampled into the ground. You know, like grazing shouldn't be allowed in some areas because it's destroying our medicines, you know. So that's another thing, land based, and then they're dealing with Crown land decisions. They're dealing with establishment and improvement of forest sites. They're talking about parks. You know, you just need to go through this thing. They're talking about mines. A whole host of things that are put in this matrix, and you have to take a look at the matrix to really understand how it's actually really impacting you. And Indigenous people should be looking at this, because another thing with this list is an admission by the province, generally speaking, that a lot of, if not all, their land decisions actually impact on our property rights, our Secwepemc rights and title in our land. So that's one thing, but it's laid out there.